Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us here on News 12 Brooklyn, where local matters. I'm Kurt Sumter, and today is Election Day. You still have a few hours to get out to the polls if you haven't voted yet. Now, right now, we want to talk to you about what we've got going on here. As we have our Vote 2022 coverage, we have team coverage for you tonight. Our Dan Seraphin is at the Alert Center breaking down all of the big races, while our Faith Graham is speaking with voters in Bath Beach. And Faith, I want to start with you. What are voters telling you?
Well, Kurt, they are telling us everything that they are worried about when they head to the polls. And I got to say, this midterm election is historic all across the country. And here in New York City, it is no different. Right now, we're here at PS 163, a polling site in Bath Beach. And we have seen voters heading inside all day. Poll workers say it's been a pretty steady flow. And ever since the clock hit 5 o'clock and people started to get off work, we've really noticed it picking up and people just coming out to cast their ballot. Voters here in Brooklyn have some huge decisions to make, including electing New York's next governor. They'll choose between either Governor Kathy Hochul or Congressman Lee Zeldin, a tight race. And here in New York's 11th congressional district, a similar scene as Democratic candidate Max Rose and incumbent Republican candidate Nicole Maliotakis are fighting for this seat to represent Brooklynites in Congress. Now, what makes this race so unique is it's a title they've both held before, with Maliotakis unseating Rose back in 2020. So a lot riding on tonight's election and the choice voters make here tonight on their ballot. Here's what some say are their top priorities when choosing their next leaders.
The most important thing to me, honestly, is safety. I have 2 daughters and I have to worry about them taking public transportation and walking around the neighborhood.
Yeah, the community safety, yes, and also the honesty of the leader.
My main concern is gun violence in schools and anywhere you go.
Well, I'm concerned about whoever can take care of the economics.
And if you too have important issues that you would like to see at the forefront, now is the time to get out and vote and make your voice heard. Polls close at 9 o'clock tonight, so you still have time. In Bath Beach, Faith Graham, News 12.
All right, thank you, Faith. We wanted to give you a look at a new tool we have to help in our election coverage. We'll be showing you this throughout the night. This tool helps us with a lot of things. We're going to start talking about balance of power. It's something that's been talked about, obviously, a lot leading up to the election. This is how it looks like in the Senate. The 50 seats is what you need to get the majority. Obviously, both Democrats and Republicans looking to do that tonight here in New York State, and we can go through every state. We're obviously going to be spending a lot of time here in New York, and that's where we're going to kind of go to start out with, as in the Senate in New York. Not too much indecision, at least, as most think Chuck Schumer will hold on to that spot and keep the Senate seat for the Democrats in New York. But there's other places in the country where that's not the case. It's still very much up in the air. In Pennsylvania, between John Fetterman and Mehmet Oz, and of course in Georgia, the much discussed race between Herschel Walker and incumbent Democrat Raphael Warnock. Same is true in the House of Representatives, where there's 435 seats total, and every single one of them is up for grabs tonight. 218. That's the number you want to get to in order to get the majority in the House of Representatives. And there's plenty of races throughout the state. Of course, the one that Faith was just talking about before here in New York State, obviously a new tool, so we're kind of working on the fly here, getting better and better every time we do it. But New York District 11, that's the big one between Nicole Maliotakis, the Republican incumbent, and Max Rose, the Democrat, trying to take that seat from him. A couple other ones in New York that are big, and it all has to do with redistricting. Obviously 19 and 22, those are spots that are new districts. Republicans and Democrats both looking to grab them. We'll have plenty of looks at this throughout our election coverage tonight. Let's go back to you, Kurt.
Busy over there at the Alert Center tonight. Can't wait to see what happens. Don't forget to join us tonight at 9. Meanwhile, voters in East Flatbush had to endure the cold morning outside their designated polling place because, as they tell us, the polling site took hours to open. News 12's Julio Avila was at that site to check out what was happening.
Sabotage.
It's sabotage, like exactly.
Tensions rose, and voters felt frustrated at this polling site in East Flatbush. Voters in this district say they waited hours to go inside and vote because the site didn't open their doors at 6 in the morning. That's when the polls across the state open.
Would you not want our Democratic district voters to vote? Because we care about our district. It's one of the poorest districts.
Siobhan Haywood says she'd waited since 7 this morning, coming early so she could get to work on time. We first got the tip from a viewer who was at the site, and we arrived just after 8. We saw a few people still outside and were allowed in a few minutes after, but Haywood says some left after waiting for so long.
Also, no place for anybody to park if they do want to go vote, compared to our previous site, which was a school, a quiet little school for many, many years.
Other voters like Kenrick Williams say he waited in his car for an hour and a half to beat the cold morning and hasn't had to endure anything like this in the 20 years he's voted.
People are very disgruntled. There's a lot of people in there, they're complaining.
We did go inside where we saw voters waiting to sign in, receive their ballots, and cast their ballots. But as to why the site was opened late, the catering hall manager tells us this.
One of the escorts had the key to open the door. She wasn't able to be here today, and when they called, and I couldn't come in to open the door.
That supervisor, he says, is with the City Board of Elections. We reached out to the BOE for further details and clarification on the opening delay and are still waiting to hear back. In East Flatbush, Julio Avila, News 12.
All right, Julio, thank you. And a reminder, you just need to be in line by 9 p.m. tonight in order to vote. Meanwhile, with only hours left before that deadline, candidates are making a count, storming the streets to make sure they gather their last-minute support. News 12's Shanice Archer was on the streets today while candidates completed their last efforts at campaigning, hoping to capture the hearts and votes of people in the community.
Oh, I was so excited because I only see them on television, and I have had the opportunity to see them in person.
A day voters like Lita Wickham will never forget.
This way we know who they are, we can have a relationship with them, we can know what kind of person they are. In person especially, communication is very important, and getting to know them even better.
Governor Kathy Hochul and Attorney General Letitia James made their way downtown Brooklyn to meet their supporters and gain some new votes. A tag-teaming female duo reminding people that their voice matters.
I feel like you cannot have complaints and talk about what's wrong if you can't interact and take care of it and vote.
If Governor Kathy Hochul wins this election, she would become the first elected female governor in New York State history. Meanwhile, Congressman Lee Zeldin rallied along Long Island, casting his ballot as this race comes down to the wire. If Congressman Zeldin wins this election, he would be the first Republican New York State governor since George Pataki.
Our state is at a crossroads, and in order to restore New York to glory, in order to tackle the reason why New York leads the entire country in out-migration, we all have to work together, Republicans and Democrats and Independents.
Close to 500,000 voters already made their choices in the Bronx and Brooklyn, according to the Board of Elections. Now you only have a few hours left to cast your vote before the polls close at 9 tonight. Head to our website at news12.com to find a polling site near you. In Clinton Hill.
Well, as New Yorkers get out to cast their ballots, so are our local leaders. In fact, our Attorney General Letitia James was at PS 11 in Bed-Stuy today, casting her vote this morning. Now, she is up for re-election this year and is being challenged by Republican candidate Michael Henry. She says that with this election, it is crucial to continue the progress that the state has already made.
That we continue to focus on public safety, that we continue to focus on reducing inflation. That's what this means to me as the Attorney General, and I will continue to use the law both as a sword and as a shield and to protect all New Yorkers.
And once again, a reminder that the polls are open until 9 p.m. More elected officials having their voices heard today, including Mayor Eric Adams. He casted his ballot earlier today right here in Brooklyn at PS 81 in Bed-Stuy. Adams voting in a general election as mayor for the very first time. And we've been mentioning it, New York's 11th congressional district has a lot of eyes on it tonight right here in Brooklyn. Could be a close one. Democratic candidate and former Congressmember Max Rose voting this morning in Staten Island along with his son Miles. He spoke out about the stakes of this election. Take a listen to what he had to say.
People are turning out because they understand the stakes of this election. We can't have a member of Congress in New York City who votes against universal criminal background checks, who basically gives guns to criminals at this point, who votes against banning an assault weapon. That has no place in New York City.
Daryl's got all the stickers. That's what I noticed there. Rose is challenging Republican Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis, who is seeking re-election for the first time after defeating Rose 2 years ago. Representative Malliotakis casted her vote along with her family on Staten Island during the first weekend of early voting. And voters heading out today had to grab their coats, and later this week, people may have to grab their umbrellas. We got some weather watch tonight. Daryl joining us right now. A lot going on, Daryl.
Yeah, a bit of a change outdoors here. We were looking at 70s and 80s yesterday, in the 50s and lower 60s. Now, we are on weather to watch for later in the week. Periods of rain could be heavy at times Friday afternoon into at least the first half of Saturday. Could get some flooding rains out there. And with all the leaves falling off the trees, the concern is that they may clog the storm drains, making bad matters even worse. Exact timing and impacts a little up for debate just yet. This is not going to be an issue for us until Thursday into Friday. So keep it tuned with us for all of the details here at News 12. Other than that, what we're going to continue to watch out for is a very quiet weather pattern. We're not looking at much activity out there as we go through the overnight. So if you have any plans on being out, mainly clear skies. We're looking nice and quiet at this time. And take a look at the temperatures, mid-50s for most locations, 57 degrees, the warm spot there on Coney Island. Winds coming in from a northerly direction, anywhere from 2 to 20 miles per hour. A quiet go of it. We're going to keep an eye on our tropical system, Nicole, and that will be making some changes later in the week. Bergen Beach, going to see overnight lows around 38 degrees.
Ooh, that's chilly, Daryl. All right, thank you. Well, local matters right here on News 12 Brooklyn. And coming up next, we are in Crown Heights as voters tell us why it's important to get their voice heard despite dealing with some long lines. And after a major delay, the winning Powerball numbers finally were announced, after a bit of an issue. Plus, we are on weather to watch. As Daryl mentioned, temperatures are going to feel like November through Thursday. You're watching News 12, where local matters. Local matters here on News 12 Brooklyn, and we continue our Election Day coverage as we've seen thousands of people out at the polls today casting their ballots across the city. And in some spots, voter turnout during rush hour has led to some long lines. News 12's Mary Lynn Buckley joining us now from a polling site in Crown Heights.
Dan, the turnout here is significant. We've seen this line go around the corner and people standing on line. Some of us tell us they've been waiting for as long as 40 minutes here. And some of them really frustrated, but at the same time saying they came straight from work and it is important for them to get out here and cast their ballot. Although some of them say they considered early voting and wish that they actually took advantage of that to avoid these long lines and the crowd, but still say that this line is worth the wait.
I definitely would probably do early voting next time, just because I think it would just be more convenient and I wouldn't have to wait in the line.
They should have something for the elderly and for the senior citizens where they can go in front and vote instead of standing on that long line.
I think the line was longer in 2008 with Barack Obama. I was right here and the line was all the way, it was incredibly long and incredibly crowded, so this is not so bad.
And seeing how long the line is at this particular polling site, it wouldn't be a bad idea to give yourself a couple of extra minutes when you're heading out to your polling site. Of course, the wait time for each of them does vary. However, as a reminder, citywide across the board, each polling site will close at 9 p.m. sharp. That's the latest here in Crown Heights. I'm Mary Lynn Buckley, News 12.
All right, Mary Lynn, thank you. And a reminder to everyone to tune in tonight right here on News 12. We've got everything you need, live coverage and results of all the races in your neighborhood. It all begins tonight at 9 o'clock, right as the polls close. You also may have seen the QR code right up there in the corner of your screen during this newscast. You can scan it with your smartphone to get your very latest at our news12.com. It will take you to our Vote 2022 coverage. And also don't forget, Krispy Kreme is giving out free donuts for Election Day. You can get a free original glazed donut at participating shops. No purchase necessary. Now the best part, there's no catch. The company says it's hoping that the freebie will remind people how important it is to take part in every election. Also, if you're looking for a ride to the polls, Lyft will be offering 50% off on ride shares, bikes, and scooter rides. The company says riders can preload the code VOTE2022 for the discount to be automatically applied to their rides. Now, the code will be available to use only during voting hours today. All right, after a lot of nail-biting, officials have finally announced the winning numbers for the record $2 billion Powerball jackpot. Now, it's not great news for New Yorkers. More than 20 third prize tickets, though, were sold here in our state. The $2 billion winning ticket was sold out in California. News 12's Anthony Carlo spoke with New Yorkers about the delay in getting the results. He has their reaction.
Well, that drawing was supposed to happen Monday night. The world's next billionaire should have already set sail, but it was all delayed after the Multi-State Lottery Association announced that one of the 48 participating lotteries needed more time to complete all the necessary protocols. Let's get to the news you really want to hear. The winning numbers are 10, 33, 41, 47, 56, and the Powerball is 10. The jackpot, already a record $1.9 billion, grew to a whopping $2.04 billion. Officials delayed the Monday night drawing when one participating lottery needed more time to process its sales and play data. The Lottery Association thanking all players for their patience, but the suspense has been driving up anxiety. For some others, though, they're not playing into all the stress.
I'm just waiting for the TV to say who won, and that's it.
When something this complicated and this big, it's to be expected.
I don't believe in it.
No?
Yeah, hardly anyone from the Bronx wins, so that's why I really don't play.
All right, so what would you do with all of that money? That's the $2 billion question. Maybe first invest in some self-care after all this suspense? For now, from the Soundview section of the Bronx, Anthony Carlo, News 12.
All right, Anthony, thank you. If you win, maybe you head out on a nice vacation. If you're looking for some fun things to do, though, right here in our city, News 12's got you covered. Every Thursday, we feature some of the awesome getaways that are just around the corner. Catch Road Trip Close to Home Thursday nights at 7 p.m. right here on News 12. Well, a new warning tonight about climate change. A government report released Monday says the U.S. will face far-reaching and worsening events unless people move faster to slow the planet's warming. The National Climate Assessment warns the economic and human toll will continue to rise. Studies say temperatures are 2.5 degrees warmer in the U.S. than in other places around the globe. And things have certainly been warmer the last couple of days until today, when the temperatures dropped significantly. We brought weather to watch, though, on top of that. So, Daryl, what can we have for the rest of the week here? I see you've got Times Square and people are out there.
Yeah, but a big change in the numbers than we saw just 24 hours ago. We had 58, 58, and 60. We were looking at temperatures up to 80 degrees at JFK just 24 hours ago. So a significant change, a little bit of a shock to the system. I hope you have a jacket handy because you'll definitely need it as we go through the overnight. High pressure will continue to drag down the colder air from Canada. Also, the winds are somewhat active as well. So going to have a bit of a raw feel outdoors, especially for the morning commute. We're looking pretty quiet thanks to high pressure. Had nothing but sunshine out there for this day. We're taking a look at Tropical Storm Nicole. This is something that we're going to have to watch because it looks like it'll be bringing us some rain later in the week. Latest advisory places the system 285 miles northeast of the northwestern Bahamas. Sustained winds at 65 miles per hour, gusting to 75, moving to the west at about 10 miles per hour. We'll be watching this intensify to a Category 1 hurricane as we get into the afternoon hours of Wednesday, making landfall around Fort Pearson, between Fort Pierce and Melbourne as we get into the 3 a.m. time period on Thursday, and then starts to push towards the north, losing intensity, but right now looking like it's going to maintain tropical storm strength, dropping heavy rain, some gusty winds. We're a little concerned about some flooding because there's a lot of leaves out there to clog the storm drains, so do what you can to help that out. We're looking at temperatures in the 30s and 40s as we go through the overnight, mid-50s as we go through the day on our Wednesday night in the 40s. The next 7 to 10 days. Next week, it's cold again.
Brooklyn, get ready, get set, vote. Tonight, News 12 has live local coverage of all the races that matter to you. The most complete election night coverage. Only on News 12. Local matters.
Well, the very latest efforts tonight to stop the spread, vaccine maker Novavax says there is no longer a need for its COVID-19 booster shot. According to a new trial, the original BA.1 vaccine induced greater neutralizing responses than the prototype vaccine in people that were not previously exposed to COVID-19. Novavax officials say the hit on the primary strain change endpoint will enable a shift to a new variant vaccine if necessary. Meanwhile, a study shows a sharp increase in young adults who seek treatment for eating disorders during the pandemic. According to JAMA Pediatrics, the inpatient admissions for young adults with eating disorders between 2018 and 2020 was about 0.7% a month. Now, that number jumped to 7.2% a month on average in the first 2 years of the pandemic.
Crown Heights. You're watching News 12 Brooklyn. Local matters.